Neha, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
You're actually the first athlete that we're interviewing for our series. So I'd like to just talk about your career. Start off by talking, you quit professional tennis. Tell us what impact that had on you emotionally.
I mean, that changed everything for me, not only emotionally, but physically. What was I doing with my time? I had spent 22 years training 6 hours a day on the court, and I decided that I had had enough. So even just figuring out what to do with my time, what to do next, where to go.
You're playing tennis for 17 years.
That's correct, yes, since I was 3 years old. So, you know, not only that, but it was really an identity shift. Going from I'm a tennis player to I don't know what. And I couldn't answer that question. I didn't know even where to start. And it was like a piece of me was no longer there. So it was extremely dramatic, for lack of a better word.
For so many years, you trained for, I believe, 7 hours a day, 6 days a week,
Yes.
with one goal in mind, to become a professional tennis player.
Yes.
What kinds of pressures did you face at that time?
You know, I think when you invest and sacrifice so much for one goal, you not only have a lot of pressure from your environment, but you also put a lot of pressure on yourself to succeed. A lot of sacrifices have been made for you so that you can continue on your dream, whether it be my family, you know, those around me, my community, my parents. They've not only monetary sacrifices, but time. They dedicated everything to this dream. And so you sort of take that pressure and you put it on yourself and you say, okay, I have to succeed. I have to be the best. And so I internalized a lot of that, and I put a lot of pressure on myself.
So not succeeding was really not an option?
It was not an option. You know, not winning was not an option. Not reaching the goal of being top 10 or winning Wimbledon was just not an option in my head. I had to do it.
Tell us about your bulimic episodes. Was this a way for you to kind of take those pressures and release it in a different form?
You know, I think that the bulimia started as a sort of an escape for me, escape from the mental hell that I was in. I really didn't know how to process my emotions. I numbed myself. I thought, okay, well, you know, if I say that I'm not enjoying this, or if I give in to feeling sad or feeling down, I'm being weak and I'm not being a tough competitor. So the bulimic episodes and the eating disorder was a way for me to control my own emotions. It was the only outlet I had that I felt was mine and I had full control over. And it only started really because I had a coach that was just really myopic about my weight. You know, somehow that was his way of controlling me and controlling, you know, what I did on a daily basis by weighing me 6 times a day.
6 times a day?
Yeah. So obviously when someone weighs you that much and, you know, it has that much, you know, focus on, oh, you have to weigh this much, and if you don't weigh this amount, well, then you're never going to succeed, and you lost your match because you're not 130 pounds. And so I slowly started, you know, from these diets and these restrictions, I slowly started just having these bulimic attacks. And I thought, okay, well, I can binge eat and I'll throw it up and then I'll step on the scale and I'll be underweight and everything will be fine and life will be good. I crashed and I burned, and I had to get help and I had to get out of it. And that's when I decided that leaving tennis would probably be the best for my own health, my inner mental health and my physical health. So I had to make that really tough choice at a young age. And it was difficult because not only had I put everything into it, but my family did too. My sister was there with me on the tour, and so in a way I felt like I was letting everybody down, and that I was somehow this mentally weak person who wasn't able to get her stuff together and get on the court and compete.
So let's talk about the match that you played in Montreal, because I think the way you described that match, what happened prepping for the match, during the match, after the match, kind of comes full circle and describes, really gives us a good example of what you were going through.
Well, I think that nothing will ever come close to what you feel when you're playing in front of thousands of people and you're competing, on the court. I think that is a high that I'm sure no drug, nothing can compare to. It's unbelievable. Though I was playing the best tennis of my life, I felt the worst I had ever. I was in mental hell. I don't know how else to describe it other than you cannot be with yourself. You cannot be alone and silent with yourself. And if you've ever experienced that, it's very tormenting. You don't know what to do to just make this shut off. How do I shut this off? How do I just breathe and exist without wanting to just combust? So it was very strange for me to have the biggest win of my career, which at the time I think I was ranked in the 300s or 200s. And I beat a girl top 50 in the world, 6-0, 6-3 or something like that. It was quite an achievement. Was more fearful that I just needed to execute what I was supposed to execute. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I was just supposed to do what I was told to do. And that's kind of how...
Very robotic.
Yes, it was very robotic. I just knew that if I didn't do what I was supposed to do, I would be a failure. And I didn't want to be a failure. So my motivation came from fear versus a personal goal, if that makes sense.
Right.
Whatever you want to say, my environment, how I was raised, how I came to know tennis was very fear-based. And I think that is why I had this mental lapse and had this eating disorder, because it was a clash.
So Neha, you won the match.
I did.
You're coming back to your hotel room. It's a victory for you. Tell us what happened when you got back to the hotel room. I think first you had to review tapes of yourself, video of yourself.
Yes, so video, when you're training to be an athlete, video footage is very important. It helps you see what you did, what your mistakes were, what you did well. And so that was a big component of my training, was watching my tapes. But it's funny that, after sort of the match ended, everyone was like, congrats, it was a great win. And, I was kind of like, I wasn't happy. And to be honest, Nisha, it was more like I was overwhelmed, because now I had to do even better. I was constantly raising the bar for myself. And now that I had done this, oh gosh, now I had to do even more. Yes, in the hotel room, I had to watch my tapes and I had to do all these things. And you see me saying I had to do it. There was no joy in it. And I just wanted to end it. I just didn't want any part in that anymore.
You talk about looking out of the window.
Yeah, I was in a high rise and I was just like, maybe I can just jump and be done with this, because I cannot take the mental pressure.
Neha, how did you decide to finally just let go?
I think I just had to choose between myself and my personal happiness and this goal that I was working towards. And believe it or not, it was actually a tough choice whether I wanted to let go or be happy. And I finally decided that my wellness was greater than, trying to achieve this goal, which is not something I wanted to do. I wrote them an email and I said, Mom, Dad, I love you.
You wrote them an email?
I did. I was in Japan.
Oh, okay.
And I said, you know what, I don't think I can do this anymore. I think this is now no longer for me, and I can't seem to be happy. And, it was an adjustment for everybody.
What was their reaction?
My mother, of course, being a mother, just wanted my happiness. My dad was, in a way, disappointed, because he knew how talented I was as an athlete and how much I had worked. I had worked so hard. My sister and I, we trained so hard to build our bodies to build our skills on the court. So he was scared for me that I might regret that later on. And so he wanted,
after putting so much
into it,
Right.
he wanted to make sure that this really was the right decision, because he knew how much he was there every day on the court with me. So he knew how much sweat and blood and tears went into it.
At 23 years old, you were back in school.
Yes.
Right here, Princeton University.
Right here at Princeton, yes.
What was that like? What was going through your head? You trained to become a professional tennis player, then you come back to school. Did you feel that you had failed, or did you feel that this was a fresh start?
No, I felt that I had failed. I felt that as prestigious and glorious it is, and how privileged I was to be at a place like Princeton, I somehow felt that this was a punishment because I had failed as a tennis player and had not met my expectations. So being here the first year after a 6-year leave of absence from school was hell for me.
Neha, all these struggles with bulimia, depression, I look at these as warning signs. What kinds of things should parents look out for when they're trying to encourage their kids to move forward on anything? But when do we know that we may be pushing too far? Like, what kinds of things should we be looking out for?
That's a really great question. My story is really not that special or different from somebody else's. Mine just happened to be through sports. But I think that one of the key indicators of sort of falling into these kinds of things is how much the kid or the child identifies with what they do. And if their identity is solely based on their academic achievements or their professional achievements, and they don't have a grounding that is beyond or aside from or has nothing to do with what they do, I think that's when it becomes dangerous.
What are you doing now? Tell us about all the exciting work you're doing now. You've taken all of this, all your experiences, and you've put it into something positive with your commitment to wellness and fitness.
Yes, so I started a blog, my website, which was sort of a way for me to just have an outlet. And it's grown quite significantly into a place where people can come and learn practical things that have helped me personally in my journey, sort of creating inner wellness. I call it inner wellness, outer fitness. So, things that I'm learning and I have learned that have really helped me get over big hurdles in my life. So I've built that website, and along with it is a YouTube channel that I started, which again is practical tips for eating well and feeling better and things you can do, as well as on the tennis court. I throw that in there as well.
What message do you have, Neha, for young kids out there who are striving for a goal, whether it be academics or in sports or anything? Just being in that position and coming kind of full circle with your journey.
No matter what you want to achieve at the end of the day, if you want to master something, you have to put in the hours. But I think what is important is that, so whether I become the next Tiger Woods or not, I'm still happy and content being who I am. Whether I win the Nobel Prize or I don't, I'm still happy being who I am. And I think if you're able to have something apart from what you do that is solid and secure, your motivation, the way you compete, and the way that you do your work will be a joy. And it will be out of self-motivation versus fear, which is really powerful. I think those who have mastered life or who have mastered certain things do it from self-motivation, not from fear. And so that would be my message.